You're asking a drug dealer to stop selling drugs and to go straight and to go get a job at McDonald's. I don't think you're going to get a criminal to do that. You got to remember, these people are banksters. And if you look up something very simple, 1776 to present inflation rate in America, you're going to see a flat line until 33 and a straight up. So what happened before that is people...
Welcome, everybody, back to another exciting show of the About That Wallet podcast, where we help the sandwich generation build strong financial habits so that they can talk about money, spend money, and enjoy their money with confidence. Today, I have somebody who is the author of Forgive and Forget, How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt. Welcome to the show, Tommy.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So one of the things that got me interested was learning more about credit cards, because the sandwich generation, we all know about it to some degree, at least how to use it for sure. But are we really taking full advantage of the credit card?
Well, we have to kind of start from the beginning. And let me just ask you a question there, Anthony. Is it possible that we have been lied to, indoctrinated, and brainwashed? And that includes you, your audience, and me too. Is it possible? What would you say?
Yes, I would say it is possible.
Absolutely. So a lie is a lie, and so we know what that is. But when it's told generationally, then it's indoctrination. So your parents told you this is a credit card, and you apply for it, and you have to comply to the terms and conditions. And if you don't pay, you will get sued. And so all that is lessons we're all been taught by the whole system does that. And that's indoctrination. But if you don't question it, it's being brainwashed. So all I want to do is reach your audience and you to educate you about a particular kind of credit card and how it is in a worldwide bank fraud has been perpetrated on us. That's how I came about this. Let me give you a bit of a biographical background. I'm a retired teacher, and I'm an author, and I wrote a book on health and healing. And I was given an infomercial contract back in 2004. So I was being test marketed on radio before we actually did the TV infomercial. And I was promised about $100,000 a month. So I lived on my 3 credit cards for that 6 months. I ran up about $85,000. But hey, I'm going to make $100,000. What do I care, right? Well, then one of the talents, he got in trouble with the FTC, and they basically came after the company pretty hard, and my contract was terminated. So I was stuck with $85,000 of credit card debt. So that put me a little bit of a depression. What would you expect? How am I going to pay this off? And then the whole goal of being a millionaire has just been taken away from me. So I woke up one morning thinking about my dad. He's a certified public accountant, and I was studying to be a CPA. Even though I didn't graduate and have the credential, I have done the work. So I know the work of a CPA. And I realized that the bank does not have an invoice. I went, oh, there's no debt. And then I have a memory. I remember the book, Modern Money Mechanics. It was required reading in our accounting class on banking. And it says right on page 6 that what banks do is they accept your promissory note and they write numbers into your free checking account. Basically, that's what it says. So I didn't sign a promissory note, so there is no loan. And then my father-in-law was a judge and attorney, and we had long conversations about how fraud undoes all contracts. So because of the fraud, I do not have a contractual agreement with the bank. So what I have is a free checking account, and all I got to do is write a letter to the bank, ask them to close the account, and that's what happened. So I decided to file 3 federal lawsuits against the banks in Los Angeles court. And things were going on pretty good. We were coming to their deposition. That means the bank employee was going to have to come to my office, was going to have to answer all these questions. And then all of a sudden, I got called into court. And a judge called me, not my defendants, not the 3 banks. They weren't there. Me. He said, Mr. Kilpatrick, do you have a credit card? Well, let me start at the beginning. Oh, we'll start at the beginning later. Do you have a credit card? No, it started off as a gift card. A gift card? Open your wallet up. Pull the card out. What's it say right there? Credit card. You're an idiot. Get out of here. So he dismissed all 3 cases. So back to depression, right? A month later, I look at my credit report and all 3 banks were off my credit report. My credit score improved after suing the banks. They never sued me, and I never got a 1099-C. that's just let me take a second and explain what that is. If you borrow $100,000 in a bank and you don't pay them back, they let the IRS know you got $100,000, so you got to pay $45,000 in taxes. They get to take a tax deduction. They never sent me a 1090-C. So that's the story of how I kind of figured out how the banks are pulling a fraud worldwide on all of us people that have a credit card.
So how that is amazing stories. You know, the amount of research you went into, but how did you know that you didn't sign anything with them? Because sometimes when we do credit card things, we do everything online, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, well, you did this, so now it hits your credit to kind of pull like a hard credit pull, and then it just
Right.
sits on our credit the whole time for at least 2 years, mostly.
Right. And that's what they'll do.
So,
They'll
like,
pull
what
your
do we
credit
do
report
for them?
and pull a credit score, and that kind of determines how much they're going to loan you. Well, maybe not necessarily a loan. So I say right up the beginning, don't believe me. I'm a doubting Thomas. So I'm inviting you, Anthony, to be a doubting Thomas and your whole audience too. Okay. So don't believe a word I have to say today. In the show notes, I have 3 links, and those links will explain to you what the truth is. And then also send this podcast to your CPA. Now, they probably never heard of this concept before, but just ask them, is this guy right? And I'm 100% correct. Because first of all, the bank does not have an invoice. 2, they don't have a promissory note. And 3, fraud undoes all contracts. So you're basically, I'm trying to get through to you and your audience is that you are a crime victim, and there is resolution from this crime that's been committed against you. So there are true credit cards. Okay, let's start with that. Let's say, Anthony, you want some tires and you don't have the money, and you go into a tire store and they say it's going to be this amount of thousands. You go, oh my God, I didn't know tires were that expensive. But yes, they are. And so they say, oh, Anthony, why don't you apply for the in-store credit card? And if you're approved, great. And yet you are approved. You drive away without paying, right? You got tires
Right?
on your car and you didn't pay for it. So you get a statement at the end of the month, which is true. And they have an outstanding unpaid invoice, which is true. That is a true credit card. You have to pay that. I am not trying to give you a get out of debt scheme. This is not getting out of debt. If you have a debt, you have a debt. So law is language and language is law. So if you use a criminal language, you're never going to win. But if you use the truth, that's
Mm.
when you will be relieved of this burden of you being a victim of a bank fraud.
So then, how do you even, in your terms, like nuke that particular debt? Like, say if we do apply for a credit card, like you apply for the card, but you didn't use it. Uh, is that something that you can still get rid of too?
Absolutely, because what we're talking about is that there are true credit cards and you owe them. So how do you know, let's say a Walmart or an Amazon card or any department store is a true credit card or a fake one? Look on the back. If you look on the back, if it says a bank right up front, so you know that is not, that's a phony card. And even American Express is a bank. They just don't put bank at the end of American Express. But if you look at the Walmart card or the Amazon, and it says issued by Bank of America, Citibank, Wells Fargo, that's a phony card. Could be Bank of London, Bank of Tokyo. It works all around the world. So if we can right now establish that the bank does not have an invoice, the bank did not put tires on your car, they did not send a plumber out to your house and did a plumbing job. So there's no service and there was no goods transferred to you. So they don't have an invoice. They could not have ever issued a credit. Okay? The wheels are starting to work.
Okay.
See, so
I think of,
let's
yeah.
go to another story. Let's have a general store. 100 years ago, you walked in. Hey, Anthony, how you doing? I'm doing great, but I do need 5 pounds of flour and a pound of sugar. Well, are you going to pay me? My crops are coming in 2 weeks. That's fine. You'll pay. I'll write it all down. And they have an invoice. You didn't go in to the storekeeper and say, hey, can I borrow $10,000? No, we don't do loans. We're in the business of selling products or doing a service. So you go to the bank. So if we can establish that one, the bank could never have offered a credit card because that's when you're a merchant and you extend credit to people. Now you started saying about application. Right. So it's a loan. Okay. So let me ask you a question, Anthony. If you go into a bank and you apply for a loan and they turn you down, do you still get the loan? No, you don't get the loan. That's stupid, right? You get turned down, you don't get the loan. But if you are approved, because that's what an application is. An application is a request. All right. So you request something. So if they approve you, you go into the bank and you fill out loan documents. Do you remember that? Page
Yep,
after
I
page of
remember.
loan documents. You have to prove you have an income. Because if the bank was taken into court, the judge say, you're loaning money to people who don't even have a job, who have no employment, have no income. You're predatory. So the banks cannot be in that position. So they have to force you to prove that you have an income, because how are you going to pay the loan back? Okay. Then you have collateral. So you have your house, your car, or if you go for a personal loan and you put up your yacht, well, they can take that away from you legally. They can send a repossession person out. They can take your car and you call the police up. The police say, who's taking it? Repo guy. That's your problem, buddy. We're not involved. So let him take your car. Away on my car, right? So they take it away and they sell it. They can legally sell your property and get the money. Now, if the bank comes up short, well, that's their problem. But if they come up long, meaning they made money, they don't keep the difference. They got to give you back the difference. Okay. So that's how you do a loan. You also have to have a credit report that shows a history, and your credit score determines your interest rate. But the last thing you sign is a promissory note. If there's no promise to pay, then it's actually a gift. So if I give you something, it's a gift. If it's a loan, then you have a loan document.
So if you get a loan, now say if you can turn the loan, can you convert a loan into a credit card?
Well, I hear about that, consolidating your credit card into a home loan. And that is the worst thing to ever do. Because first of all, my argument is that it's not a debt. It's not a loan. So why would you give the bank money that you don't really have to give it? It's actually putting into your checking account. Well, I'll explain that a little bit later. But it's totally ridiculous to put that debt into a house, because if you don't pay that payment, you lose your house. This would be totally crazy. And in the show notes on the number 5 link is Dave Ramsey, and he talks about these debt settlement companies. They'll take your money, but they don't pay the bank, and you were worse off before. So the very first link explains that how banks are only involved in loans, and that when you take money and put it into a bank, you're actually loaning the bank money. So this is what happens when banks want to have you as a customer, and they will spend money to get you to be a customer, right? Years ago, they bought toasters and wall clocks, and they had them in the bank, and they would say, hey, if you open an account today, we'll give you this toaster. You went, great. Your mom said, great, we got a toaster. It was a big deal back in the 50s or 60s. So they also had an ad in the paper that I saw. It said, come into our bank and deposit $25 and we will match it in 90 days. So what did I do? I took my 25, put it into my savings account, waited 91 days, went into the bank, took out my 25 and the bank's 25, right? I took out $50 and closed the account. Let me ask you a question, Anthony. Was that ripping the bank off? Did I go into
No.
the bank and rip them off? No.
I would say
Did
no.
I steal? Did I steal from the bank?
No.
No, they gave me $50. 25 was mine. 25 was theirs. They gave it to me. I didn't have a gun. And is that immoral? What I did, was that immoral? Tell me.
Not at all.
No, that's not immoral. They did a deal. I followed it and I took my money. I closed the account. That's my deal, but boo-hoo for them. So it's the same thing with a $500 Capital One credit card. It's a gift card. You didn't buy it. You didn't borrow it. It's a gift, because that's when you apply, they give you a $500 credit card. They gave me this, what you think was a loan, because you have been lied to, indoctrinated, and not brainwashed, because now you're questioning. That's all I want you to do is question this. So we watch TV, we see a bank robber, and they always say alleged. So all I want you to do is say it's alleged debt. Now, when you say that, that puts the burden on the bank to prove that there's a debt with an invoice, which they don't have, or a loan, and they have to have a promissory note. That's in the show notes, and your second link is from the Federal Reserve that put out the book, Modern Money Mechanics. It says right there jokingly and mocking, of course we don't take people's deposits and loan them out to other people. There wouldn't be enough money. And then it says, we accept your promissory notes. You have to sign a promise to pay them first. And then they write any number they want. There's nothing holding them back. They could put 500, they could put 5,000, they could put 5 million. It doesn't matter what they do. So they write that in your free checking account. So what'd you do with your gift card? It came in the mail. And what would be something you want to buy for $500 right now, Anthony? If I gave you $500, what would you want to buy? One thing. What would that be? Microphone?
If I had to be right now, because I'm actually thinking like some food.
A washing machine? Something.
To be
just
honest,
pick anything. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Pick one thing.
A phone and some TV.
A TV. Perfect. So you go into a TV store with your gift card. You think it's a credit card. Remember, you've been lied to and indoctrinated, but you're not brainwashed. So it's okay. So you do walk in the store and you buy the TV. As you're walking out, they say, wait a second, sir. Did you pay for that? And you have a receipt, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are not going to get a statement at the end of the month from that store saying you have an outstanding unpaid invoice. You didn't pay for that TV. So who paid for the TV? Somebody paid $500. The bank, right? So where did the bank get that money? From their advertising budget. Okay. This is the same thing as giving you a wall clock to get you as a customer. Same thing when they matched my money to get me as a customer. So what's the big deal about being a customer? Look this up yourself. I did it 2 months ago. What's the average person pay in credit card fees? $3.04.
Like 200.
So if the bank has 1 million card holders, they're bringing in $23 million a month. And in my calculations, I figured out to be 1/4 of their profit. So a bank is profiting by worldwide fraud, and they're making you pay $23 a month on average every month for a free checking account. The statement comes at the end of the month, right? But you get a statement from your regular checking account. You get a statement every month. Is that a bill from your regular checking account? Is that a bill? From your regular checking account that you have and you get every month, you get a statement every month. Is that a bill?
Right. No, that's not a bill.
No, it's not a bill. It shows what you began, your beginning balance, your deposits, your checks, your deposits, other fees and things, and you have an ending balance. It's not a bill. But you think it's a bill because of the fraud done by the bank and been lied to and indoctrinated to think that that's a bill. So what'd you do? You're a good person. You're a you're a moral person. So you do the right thing by writing a check out. And let's say you write the check out from the Bank of New York. Let's just pick that one. You have a bank at Bank of New York and you're going to pay Bank of America. When you write $500 check out and mail it to the Bank of America, that's the first time the bank has ever seen your money. Am I right? Think
You're
about
right.
it. A card came in the mail.
Yeah.
You didn't apply for it. It was your pre-approved. It's from Bank of America. You bought your TV and you get a statement and then you mail a check to Bank of America. That's the first time Bank of America's ever got your money, right? Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So what happens is that you loaned $500 to the bank. If you go into a bank with no money, you want to come out with money, it's a loan, right?
Right.
If you take money and put it into a bank and leave it there, it's a loan to the bank. And that's in the show notes in the first link. So that's going to tell you what you're doing is you're not depositing money. You are taking your money and giving it to the bank as a loan. So they put that in the account that's associated with that bank issued alleged credit card. So every purchase you've made since then has been with your own money. This is a big scam going on. They get you to pay for what you purchased that month, and they call it a payment. So you write a payment check to the bank. All you're doing is filling your checking account back up. You don't have to do that. There's not $1.3 trillion of credit card debt. It's all a lie. It's what the banks want you to deposit to their checking account. You've decided not to. But if you don't do that, they charge you interest. They charge you late fees. They charge you overdraft fees. They charge you a cash advance fee. It's your money in your free checking account, and you go into a bank to get your cash out. They don't say, oh, by the way, we're going to charge you 5% for taking the money out. What? No. And then the annual fee for a free checking account. So that's how they get the $23.04 on average. So what happened to me is the banks wiped off the credit cards off my credit report. I did not get out of debt. They took it off my credit report because in my pleading, I explained all what they did, all the crimes they committed. And so they didn't want to take a bite of me. So they backed off. They took it off my credit report and never sent me a 1099 and never sued me. So I helped thousands of people. I had a charity for about 10 years. So I helped people doing this. And now I'm kind of back, and I wrote the book because I want to help other people.
So, going through this process, like, it's just to kind of help people remove can't really call it debt, but remove the note that's on their account that says that they owe this amount. Am I saying that correctly?
All we want it to do, the banks, is to remove that derogatory item. So I don't help anybody unless they have a third party verify I'm correct. So I'm happy to talk to your attorney. What kind of scammer wants to talk to your attorney? Only if we have the CPA. Only if we have a person who says, I've had a class of accounting. One class is going to tell you. Anyone who has business knowledge knows you never pay from a statement. See, Anthony, you don't have the experience I have had. My dad was a CPA, so part of my DNA has the IRS in it. And my first job was an accountant. And the CFO, which is a CPA, he walked up to me and put a finger in my face and said, if you pay from a statement, I'm going to fire you. And then he got really nice, but he had to make that impression on me. And he said, owners of our company, we do deals all the time. So maybe this invoice may not even be valid anymore. We mucked out other kind of deals. Or we wrote a check last week and it's crossing the mail. So it's not true. You only pay from an invoice, and look at the corner there. See how the department head okays it? Only if we validate that the merchandise came in and it is the true accounting and it is the true shipping and it is all accurate, only then do you pay. So I have had that experience. You don't. So I know the bank does not have an invoice. No invoice, no debt. I also have a memory that you have to have a promissory note. Think about this, Anthony. You buy a share of stock of Bank of America. Now you're a shareholder. Now you're benefiting from them. You're going to get money from them in your dividend. You're all on board with the Bank of America. Great. Now, it's your bank. Now, Anthony, would you want your bank to loan out your money to people who can't pay it back?
No.
Would that sound like sound business practices? Not at all. Would you want to have your bank loan your money to people who don't even have an income? Because on this credit card application, there's no proof of income. They tell you on YouTube, there's these guys on YouTube that tell you, apply. But I'm unemployed. It doesn't matter. Write down some job, put these 130,000 you're making, you'll get more. Put up 200. That's true, right? So would you want your bank to loan your money to people who don't even promise to pay it back?
No. It doesn't make sense.
So doesn't make any sense because it's not a loan. It's not a debt. What they got you to do is be a customer. Now you have a free checking account. Now they're hitting you with all these fees fraudulently and you've suckered into it. Okay, but I'm here to help you get off that crazy merry-go-round, and you don't have to be thinking about getting out of debt. All we want the bank to do is remove it off your credit report. They're not going to be sued because they can only sue you if you have a debt with them.
So then, let's say, do you have any credit cards by any chance?
Kind of heard a little bit here. You kind of broke up a little bit.
Do you have any credit cards by any chance after going through all of this?
Very good. I like that question. Yes, I got a credit card. About 13 years ago, the wife said, get out and take the dog with you. So I became homeless on purpose, and I took a vow of poverty. And for about 10 years, I had nothing to touch anything. So when I came off the farm about a year and a half ago, I knew I was going to go to the Philippines. So I needed to buy an airline ticket with a credit card. Okay. You even got me saying it. Okay. And then to rent a car, I had to have a credit card, right? Debit cards won't work. So what I had to do was apply for a credit card from Capital One. And guess what? They gave me a $500. See the word? They gave me a $500 credit card, but I had no score and I had no credit report. So how do you do that? They don't give credit cards out to people who have no score and no credit history. I was a previous customer, right? I was sued them for $35,000. So they removed it off my credit report, kept me on as a good customer, obviously, and they gave me a $500 credit card. So they gave me an instant score of about 525. Then I went to a credit union, got a small little loan that I pay every month. Now I have an installment loan, right? So now my score jumped to 625, 630. And over the last 6, 7 months, I have been using the credit card, 10%, never be late. And now my score is 5 and it's ready to go up to 800. So I want to prove to you that a guy that did all this, why would they give you a credit card? Because they pay on average $23.04. Why did someone go bankrupt and the next day after it's all finalized, you get a credit card application? Because they know you can't do it for another 7 years. So think about this. They give you $500. They make the money back. On average, $23. So about 22, 23 months, they're going to make their $500 back. So then now you're paying $23.04 every month for the next 20 years. It could be up to 79.9%. One podcaster told me he pays $800 for an annual fee. $800 to have a free checking account. So
What?
don't get any after I help you and resolve your issue. I'll have you help you get your credit card, but now you know not to get any with an annual fee, and you never pay a bit of interest. Oh, and only buy stuff that you're going to pay for, kind of like that, kind of like what Dave Ramsey would say. But you run a risk. The risk is they're going to lower your credit limit down. No, that is the criminal language. They have stolen money out of your account. So if you have a $500 bank account and they take $250, they stole money from you. So it's the risk you take to get the credit score up, to have the convenience of getting an airline ticket and renting a car. So you have to kind of understand that.
Yeah, because I had that happen to me when I was getting into some things, and before I canceled the credit cards, I just had to try to get myself out of debt at the point. And because all the banks talk to each other, one of the banks actually lowered my available limit, and I'm like, but my job, I thought your job was to help me, and they hurting me by lowering it down. It was like, well, it's nothing we can do until until you pay the debts down for other things. And I'm like, well, at that point, just cancel the card because you're not helping me. So
And
it's a shame.
that's the thing. When I help people, I usually find them money they didn't even know they had. So once I do analysis of their credit report, then I can see they have money still available. So I have them withdraw the money out of their account. You could say max out the card, but that's the wrong language. That's not max out your card. It's taking the money out of your account and then you close the account. Now, I have to warn the people that if you do one card, like you said, they talk among themselves. Hey, this guy's doing something over here. Then everybody lowers your credit limit down or just cancel your card and you're stuck paying. You think, and you're not getting any benefit. You think, no, it's your checking account. They stole the money and they're still making you pay interest on a free checking account. There never was a loan. There never was a debt. So I'm able to get you off that merry-go-round. So what we do first is we have you pull your credit report so I can see what it is. I don't need to know the social security numbers. I don't need to know anything. I just need to know the bank or whoever the creditor is and just a little bit of information. And I don't need the account number. So I just need a little bit of information on how often they're reporting and what the balance is and stuff like that. Then we have a strategy that we need to complain. You need to file a police report. Well, it's
Full
not like
police
somebody
report?
robbed your house and you call the police in. There are state and federal agencies that take complaints. So there are 5 that I know right now. So it depends on the situation. There might be a few more, but for the typical person, there's 5. And we send those complaints to those state and federal agencies. So now you're saying, I'm a victim of a crime. Right. That's the right thing you need to do is notify the authorities, which you've done. It's civil. It's not really criminal. They're doing criminal things, but only a district attorney can do that. So you're in a civil situation, but you did show the court and the judge that you are a victim and you filed police reports basically with authorities. Then what we do is we draft a letter to the bank and explaining all what's happening with a CPA saying there never was any invoice. If there is an invoice, then send it. We agree to pay for it. So we're not trying to get out of debt. If you got an invoice and it's accurate and truthful, then we will pay it. On the other side, they're never with a loan because you never had a promissory note. You can't do that because you violated federal banking regulations. And then we have the attorney send a letter to the bank saying fraud undoes all contracts. So here's the Supreme Court ruling, and we have no contractual agreement with you at all, bank. And then what we do is we have drafted a lawsuit. We don't file it, but the bank's going to see a lawsuit. So if they want to take a bite out of us, they already know that we're going to be asking for discovery. We're going to have production of documents, interrogatories, which are questions, admissions, and a deposition. They don't want this to be out. And the last thing we do is an injunction. Now, for most people, before years ago, they had no idea what I'm talking about. Now, everybody knows what I'm talking about. Trump does one thing. Someone runs into court and they have an injunction and stops all the action. That's exactly what we do. We let the bank know that if they sue us, we're going to countersue and we're going to file an injunction, which means the bank has to bring to the judge a copy of the outstanding unpaid invoices, a certified copy of the promissory note, and we also ask them to produce an affidavit of debt. Someone in the bank has to swear out with a penalty of perjury. That means jail time or a fine that they believe and they have the evidence that I have a debt with them. And if they don't do that in 30 days, they're held in contempt and everything stops. So when the bank sees this, they're going to be going, legal expenses are 50, 60,000, just a start of what it's going to take to get through this. Click. And that's about 45 days. So once the person comes involved with us, in about 45 days, and that's money back guarantee in that sense. But I don't always charge for people because I find them money. So not only do you get money, you also not get out of debt, but you get out of this fraud that you've been involved in with. So you don't owe the bank anything because you never did.
So why wouldn't more people just go ahead on and utilize their credit cards to the max and then go through this process?
That's what I said. Is it immoral what I did? In the show notes, there's a link number 4 is a guy on YouTube that says, do this, what I just said. Go into a bank and match the funds. And he's made $361. That's all he does is do the terms, what they say. He waits that limit, goes in, takes the money and closes the account. So there's nothing different with that. If that's not immoral, then it's a gift.
Well, then it seems like free gifts for everybody right for the holidays.
If the banks are stupid enough, but again, 1/4 their profits is based on this crime they're committing. And I've just discovered it and revealing the crime that they're committing. So, okay, look at it another way. Let's look at it another way. Let's say I'm completely wrong.
Yeah.
Tommy is totally wrong. Too crazy idea. Okay. Then disagree with my facts. So you're telling me the bank has an invoice. They have a date, product, service, everything ready to send to me to pay. Okay. You're going to tell me that they have a promissory note that I promised to pay them back in a loan. And then you're going to tell me fraud is okay. So I sell you my house, Anthony, but I didn't tell you I put toxic waste in the backyard. And you're making payments to me every month because I'm the bank. I own the house. So in a little short time, you find out you're sick, your kids are sick, your wife's dying of this toxic waste. And the judge is going to say, no, Anthony, you signed a contract. We don't care about what he did. It was just because he didn't disclose. That's no problem. You got to live there and you got to die. No. So if you tell me that, that's the world you live in. Okay. But the bank does not have an invoice. You didn't sign a promissory note. And 3, fraud undoes all contracts. So what you have is a checking account. All you got to do is close the checking account by the normal way. We signed a letter to the bank closing the account, but you better take your money out first or they'll steal it. They will confiscate it.
Okay. I'm thinking about like all the paperwork that will go behind it, but I see what you're going at with this. So I'm thinking of like going in the future, what would it take for the banks to do it the right way? Pretty much just give you a loan and have the loan available amount on a card to say like, hey, this is a loan that you decide to kind of swipe away. And it's because it's a revolving loan. We can't, because if most loans are just one way. So will be the future of banking if they actually do it the right way?
Yeah. You're asking a drug dealer to stop selling drugs and to go straight and to go get a job at McDonald's. I don't think you're going to get a criminal to do that. You got to remember, these people are banksters And if you look up something very simple, 1776 to present inflation rate in America, you're going to see a flat line until 33 and it's straight up. So what happened before that is people took money into a bank. They took that money and they loaned it to somebody else. So you took money out of someone's pocket and you put that money into someone else's pocket. And that's why the prices did not go up. I believe the Federal Reserve created the Depression on purpose. It's known that they jacked up the interest rate, but they don't talk about anything after that because what was a fallout? Banks went under. Banks were absorbed. And so what happens when the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, they were very weak. They had nothing. It took them that 20 years to finally get consolidated so that they could cause this depression to force out all these other banks that weren't going to join. Well, now they are. Now they got to join. So then what they did is they did the fractional banking, exactly what I'm talking about. You accept a promissory note and they write numbers into the account. Ever since then, it's been straight up inflation. So K bono is Latin for who benefits. Well, if you are wealthy and you have your employees working at the Federal Reserve and you're wealthy and you have your employees working in Congress, well, they're all doing the bidding for you. So you know there's going to be inflation. So what you do is you borrow now and pay it back later in cheaper dollars. You buy the property now and you know it's going to be higher price because the dollar is less. They know this. So you and me, the schlubs that are working on slaves, I worked at UPS. I was $11 an hour and we had a COLA, cost of living allowance. Every 6 months, we got 50 more cents, but it was never enough. I was always behind the prices going up. And that what taught us is to buy it now. Don't wait. You better buy it now because it'll be more expensive tomorrow. And that's a consumerism. So all we're doing is crazily buying stuff. Wait until deflation happens and it's going to go the other way. It's what's happening in China right now is they're having a massive implosion that people are not buying stuff. They're waiting. The streets are empty. The stores are closed. Look at Las Vegas. Look at these other resort places, Hawaii. There's nobody on the streets anymore. And that's unheard of, not to see a bunch of people walking around in Las Vegas, but it's happening. It's going to happen here.
So with the future of things, like how do we continue to get better? Like what would make this look right?
Well, first of all, I can relieve people's stress because in the future, you're looking at these credit card bills and it's not a credit card bill. It could be if it's a true credit card and you have to pay that. But if it's issued by a bank, so I'm talking about the bank issued alleged credit card. So it's not getting out of debt. It's removing it off your credit report and closing your free checking account. So once you have it resolved, now you can order another credit card because you need to have one to get your score back up. Or that's the funny thing. My score went up after the lawsuit. My score went up because those 3 derogatory items were off my credit report. Maxed out cards were not even there anymore. So my score went up. So now you qualify for a credit card and they're going to give it to you because they are looking for you as a customer. They need a customer. You walk into a store and say, "Oh, sir, you can apply for a credit card. I've got bad credit." It doesn't matter. Apply. So all they want is the application. So they will sell it and they'll get it and you'll have it. Now you know the true story and it's up to you of what happens. So if you want to do what the guy says, make $361 and you want to make $500,000, go right ahead.
So is there anything you want to leave the person listening to this right now with before we dive into the final 4 questions?
I'm ready for the 4 questions. Yes.
Alrighty. So question number 1, what does wealth mean to you?
I'm glad you asked because I have that written down here somewhere. Oh, here it is. Wealth. I looked up the definition of wealth and it says here it's a state of happiness, well-being, joy. Probably never heard that one before. Or valuable material possessions. So I would consider that a noun. So if you have things, so you'd be into that. But the state of happiness is more like a verb. So I tend more towards a verb. So for my happiness, what I do is I help other people. So I came here to the Philippines to teach farmers how to build a dome house with bamboo. So it's free housing. Also vertical gardening. So they can produce a lot more food in a smaller space. So it's free food. And I'm helping them set up free self-managed medical care clinics. So they're in charge of their own medical care. So that's what I'm doing. So I am helping people, and I will do things of acts of random kindness. We call it an ARC, AR. So it's an act of random kindness. So that's how I get my happiness. That's how I get my joy. And that's the wealth that I would consider I'm wealthy. So the more people I help, the wealth will come.
Continue to help. Number 2, what is your worst money mistake?
Thought about that, and I have to admit, I lost $100,000 in the commodity market. My dad, being a CPA, told me when I started interested in getting involved in the commodity market, because you can make great profits there and just huge amount of money. He said in his years of experience, he's never had a client ever make money on a commodity market. So I did visit this commodity exchange in Chicago. I was snuck in a little bit and got onto the trading floor, and I sat and watched where all my money went. So I had made a trade once. I made a lot of money. And then all of a sudden, a half an hour later, they called back and said, "Oh, your trade was misdone. You didn't make any money." So I knew it was rigged. It was a scam. So I saw $100,000 of my money gone at the Chicago Board of Trade.
That would hurt, like emotionally, financially. Like, geez, 100 grand. Okay.
Yeah, that
Number 3, is there a book that inspired your journey or changed your perspective?
I would say I had read about the obituary of Buckminster Fuller in 1983. He's the guy behind a geodesic dome. And I never heard of this guy ever before. I just happened to read his obituary. And then I went to the library, went to the bookstore, and read every book this guy has ever written. And sometimes I've read the books 2 and 3 times. It's the main thing that I had brought away with it, the geometry of thinking. I think in vectors. I think in lines and coming together in what I call the kind of like the universal vectorial angle. So we have different people, you and I connected here, we cross paths. Are we going to become entwined and be connected forever? And I don't know. Are we going to never see each other again? Maybe. But then what that does, we create a triangle. We bring 3 people into the mix and much stronger, like a family. A husband, wife, make a child. Now you're a family. And then we lead that into 3 dimensions. So we get into the tetrahedron, octahedron, icosahedron. So I build these shapes and I teach people how to think basically from these geometric shapes. And that's what got me into domes and building domes. So I found this thing called zip tie domes. So I go to a farmer. They invite me to their farm. I didn't know anybody here in the Philippines, but I went on a woofing site called WWOOF, Worldwide Opportunity Organic Farming. And there you can link up to a farmer. So I did, and they invited me to come to their farm. It's a bamboo farm. So I went there and I taught them how to build an 8-meter dome. We built it in 4 hours. One person could build an 8-meter, 25-foot dome in 4 hours, and there's no tools. So after I teach the farmer how to do this, they can now have a business. Now they're in the kit selling business. So when all they need to know is how wide or how tall. They only need one number, feet or meters, it doesn't matter. And on the website, it gives them their calculations. They cut the bamboo and drill a hole, and it comes to the job site with zip ties. It takes no tools, and up it goes. One person, 4 hours, 4 people in an hour. So if some storm wipes off your house or your barn or your greenhouse, it can be built back up very quickly. And then the other one is the vertical gardening. So that's what I'm here to do. So the main thing of what I learned from Buckminster Fuller is the geometry of thinking. That's what I have brought to me everywhere and wherever I go. I always teach people about how to put 6 together, and all of a sudden we're making tetrahedrons, octahedrons, icosahedrons, and now they get it. So it's a great opportunity. So that's what I'd recommend to anybody is reading anything by Buckminster Fuller.
Yeah, I'm going to check out one of those domes and see what they look like. That was pretty cool. Number 4, what is your favorite dish to make?
My favorite thing I like to make is called a tortilla española. And that's called tortilla in Spanish is an omelet. So it's a potato omelet that I had in Spain. And it was a tapas. Tapas are little bits of food you have at the bar. So I learned what they do. And you take some butter or some oil and you fry cook the potatoes and onions and garlic and make it anything you want in there. And then you stir up the eggs and pour the eggs into the pan. And you're kind of creating like an omelet. And then you flip it over and cook the other side and then set it out. And it's kind of like a pie. And you cut it up and it's got potatoes in it, and onions and garlic. It's a great little tidbit to eat, or it's partly a meal too. So that's part of the cuisine I like to eat.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds delicious. I'll actually like try that one day. The very last question of the show, which is where could people find out more about you?
Sure. They can find me at Tommy A. Kilpatrick on Facebook. And in the show notes, we'll have my email, and I offer a free 15-minute consultation. And if you take me up on that, I will send you my $69 book for free. So I want you to do it. You can figure it out for my book if you want to, or if you need my help, I'm here available. But most likely I can find you money. So, and then also relieve you of your, what's the right way? Being a victim. So no longer being a victim, putting yourself back in power.
I like that. Tommy Kilpatrick, thank you so much for your time and actually sharing with us all of your knowledge. Well, as such little time that we had to really dive into our banking and really understanding what are we signing up for, because I think this will be very helpful for us in our future and really to understand what is it and what is it that's causing us our pain in our finances is that we just don't know. And I think that long as we continue to stay curious and really understand what's going on, the world will be a better place. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tommy. You have a good day.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.